Good morning. So I got some slides here. Fantastic. All right, so as Marcus said, my name is Chris Morton. I'm the founder and CEO of Lyst, and I'm going to talk to you this morning about the future of fashion. So in a very simplistic level, Lyst is a fashion marketplace. So on one hand, we work with leading fashion brands, department stores, boutiques from all over the world, and we bring their inventory together for 40 million shoppers to browse, search, and buy. And because I know you guys love some numbers, here's a quick snapshot. So 3 million items in the inventory, 40 million shoppers, mostly from the US. So despite the fact that we're a European business headquartered here in London, we have always had priority in the US from day one. And because it's luxury and contemporary fashion, the average order value is about $350. And you can see some of the brands we work with, from the biggest department stores in China to the US to luxury brands across Europe. And looking specifically at GMV growth, it's been triple-digit growth every year and north of 100 this year. So taking a step back, what we're doing is in some ways very familiar in that we've seen this in many other industries. So aggregating models in travel have been around for over a decade. More specifically within music, businesses like Spotify or film, Netflix. And frankly, these businesses, well, they give you the easiest way to consume the vertical they own. And they're mostly data businesses or engineering businesses because aggregating the inventory is quite complex and building a customer experience on top of the industry is also quite complex. And interestingly, when we look at for inspiration, we tend to look more at businesses like Netflix or Spotify because fashion is entertainment. It's taste-based vertical, and we learn more from how they have solved category leadership than maybe from Amazon, despite the fact that we're obviously both in this e-commerce space. So the way that our partners think about us is similar to Bond Street here in London or Avenue Montaigne in Paris. You know, we are here to create a shopping experience. We do that by bringing together the best brands and stores and boutiques, department stores, all into one shopping street, one shopping environment. And then we have, you know, that experience encourages or draws in millions of shoppers. So effectively, we exist to help these partners grow their businesses. And you know, Marco asked for me to talk a bit about the competition. And I think the key message here is that typically many people think that we compete with the retailers, with the brands, and that's a fundamental misunderstanding. We are their partners. We drive hundreds of millions of sales their way to help them grow their businesses. So we do not compete with them. And when it comes to a fashion marketplace, you know, the inventory of 3 million items is massive compared to the next biggest in luxury and high end. And I should also point out this is brand new. This is not peer-to-peer. So as I mentioned, these category leaders in different verticals, they're engineering businesses, they're data businesses. And for our team of 140 people, half of us are engineers and data scientists, but we also have a very strong fashion DNA as well. And you can see in each of the broad teams, there is a mix of engineering and non-engineering. Even the marketing and the brand marketing teams have engineers. So we split our business into these three segments. We think about the inventory. How do we get these millions of items, which is very complex, and I'll talk about that in a second. How do we build a product on top of that inventory that helps the consumer navigate around these millions of items? And finally, how do we do marketing on top of the product to get people to the experience? So first, inventory aggregation. You know, it is highly fragmented. So in the music example, the owners of the music rights, there are a handful of key players, you know, the big record labels. Whereas in fashion, it is highly distributed. To give you a sense of scale, a boutique might have a few hundred items. A brand, if they're very big, might have a few thousand. A huge department store will have maybe 30, 40,000 items. And that is 1% of our 3 million inventory. Now, many of these partners do not have APIs, so aggregating these items in a very rich metadata level is very complex. And this is why we have a strong layer of data scientists and PhDs managing this data set, which changes incredibly frequently. So 15 million updates every week. We have 180,000 new items a week as well. So to give you a sense of scale, if all the department stores in the US, their collective inventory is still smaller than a 1 week's worth of inventory that comes into our site. So this is the complexity around that foundational inventory layer. Once we have this rich, real-time inventory of these millions of luxury and contemporary fashion items, the next challenge is to build a product on top of it. And the way that customers interact with this product, on one hand, is search. So I have a very specific desire. I need to find this dress, these shoes. And they'll come to us because they're more likely to find it because we have the biggest inventory and we have it in both in breadth and in depth. But sometimes the customer doesn't know what she wants. Sometimes she wants to browse and be inspired. And here, as the name of our business suggests, lists we find to be the most powerful inspiration and discovery mechanism. And again, this is not dissimilar to Spotify, who have these 40 million tracks. You can enjoy the breadth of this 40 million inventory in music with search, but when you come to the home screen of the app, you have lists that are curated by people, playlists in Spotify's case, to help discover. And we have a very similar model, so lists are made by our partners, the brands, the boutiques, influencers, magazines. We also supplement them with our data set, so we can tell you the top 10 white shoes trending in Paris right now, and this is how we manage the search and discovery. And then once you've found an item that you want to buy, we have these super rich product pages that help customers ensure they're buying from the right place if they need it same-day delivery or if they want it in a certain size. Now, when we started the business, it was an affiliate business because it was mostly a desktop experience and customers were very happy once they found something to be redirected to a retail site to pull the trigger there. And along the way, we built a universal checkout. And in fact, we had to build a universal checkout because of a fundamental structural shift in the ecosystem, which we began to see in 2012. And this was the shift to mobile, and consumers were fundamentally not happy when they got redirected to tap in all their details into a site which may or may not be mobile optimized. And if they wanted to buy multiple things, they'd have to go through this really difficult experience again and again. And so some people said, well, some affiliates said, well, fine, we'll just move to CPC. So as long as we're sending clicks to the retailer, that's fine. Of course, that does not solve the fundamental issue that customers still find it hard to buy on mobile. And the retailers were paying on a CPC basis for traffic that converted less well, so that wasn't very good for them. So we built a universal checkout. And this allows you to buy from multiple stores and brands all in a single tap on the handset. So it's a great experience for the customer, so she's buying more, so the conversion rate is higher. Great experience for the partners because they're getting higher sales. And again, it's for us, this was like a Netflix-like shift from mailing DVDs to streaming. It was a bet the business, we have to do this. If mobile is going to happen, we'll have to have a universal cart because we do not believe that affiliate will work in a high AOV vertical on mobile. And so we started building this in 2012, and a lot of the growth that we're seeing has been as a direct result of this universal cart. So that was the product. And now that we talked about inventory and product, the final layer is marketing. So it's a good time to talk about our customer. So I've said she a lot because, unsurprisingly, 85% of our customer base are women, but we do have men. And actually, men begin to become about 25% in Asia. She's fairly affluent, given the AOV of $350, and she spends quite a reasonable amount of money on fashion, between $500 to $1,000 a month. And also, she is urban. So New York and LA are our top two cities, with London a close third. And really, she will shop wherever makes sense to her. So Monday morning, desktop traffic surges. She's in the office. Tablet in the evenings. We know that she's in store on the weekends. So she's not using Lyst because she doesn't have access to the items on her footsteps. She's using it because it's the best way for her to engage with fashion, which she loves, whether she's in the office or at home or on the go. And so some quick stats about the retention. So 50% of our GMV comes from people who are coming back to the site. 28% of shoppers will come back the following week. And at the top end, we have a handful of customers who spend over $100,000 a year, who we love dearly. These are sort of, in some cases, professional shoppers or addicted shoppers. They're placing about 1.5 orders a week with an AOV of $2,000. So we do love them dearly. I haven't spoken very much about the business model. Again, it's a super simple model. You've seen the AOV of 350. I thought it's worth mentioning that the AOV actually goes up to 550 on a second and third purchase once the customer has more trust and loves the experience more. And then we'll take a double-digit commission, and that is the only cost that our retailers bear. There's no maintenance or integration, so it's a very simple marketplace model. But given those economics, paid search becomes very effective for us. And as I mentioned, we have a big engineering team helping us manage hundreds of thousands of keywords, mostly at the long tail. So we wouldn't bid on the word Gucci because it's quite competitive and it's sort of less purchase intent. And as you go down into the very long tail queries, something like Gucci silk Georgette cape shirt, which I understand is a very desirable item right now, very few people would be bidding on this because a normal retailer might have one or none in a handful of sizes, whereas we will have the biggest depth and breadth of this particular item. And there's such a large volume across those, all these long and very long tail keywords that we can do customer acquisition in a very traditional paid search way quite effectively, and this is not dissimilar to many other aggregating models. So last few slides. We also use engineering and data science to understand how best to do marketing. So we'll understand that red dresses have a much higher return rate than black dresses. We know that 10 a.m. on a Monday is a time where items are very often returned. Again, our customer is at her desk. She is maybe looking for some retail therapy to help her. All right. Last slides. International. I mentioned that we're mostly in the US, but expanding to Asia and the rest of Europe. And here's a brief history of the funding of the business. Raised about 60 million. From VCs like Excel, DFJ, and Balderton, from strategics like LVMH, looking to invest that by growing the business and doing more internationally. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be around for the rest of the conference, very, very sadly, but if you want to reach out, we'd love to hear from you, Chris at Lyst. Thank you very much.